one told me I could, and I don't remember exactly when, I developed an understanding of God, religion, and spirituality that was my own as a child. My understandings differed from the common beliefs held by most people in my community. My beliefs were not radical. They emerged organically from a synthesis of my observations and experiences that were not unique to me. The Orthodox Church of my childhood and its traditions were intricately and seamlessly woven into every aspect of daily life. The sights, sounds, and smells of the meditative open-air gatherings of chanting and liturgy constituted my first spiritual language, my mother tongue. Outside of church, I was raised on my great-grandfather's stories and religious teachings. He was a natural at imparting spiritual wisdom. It was his inheritance from his priest grandfather. His lessons and prayers were the anchors of our frequent and large family gatherings. The spirituality that he passed down to us was not focused on rigid ideologies, but rather on leading a life of service and purpose with integrity in a way that demonstrates what the God he revered looked like in action. The layout of my spiritual landscape was also deeply influenced by a uniquely strong culture of respect and peaceful coexistence between religious groups in Ethiopia. So I came to understand religion and God as being related, but not exclusionary. I chose to only adhere to the practices and rituals that resonated with me while rejecting the ones that did not. I did not think my selective adherence had any bearing on whether or not I was a good human. I believed God was the loving presence in my heart. I did not believe the Bible was the only authority in defining God. In my math, it added up then, and it adds up now. My beliefs were reasonable and made sense. But when I began expressing them, I was met with ridicule and shaming by some of the most important people in my life whose validation I desperately sought. Still, I committed to following my own authentic, undefined spiritual path, even when I was unsure of its existence, unaware at the time of the hefty price I would still be paying and how excruciatingly painful it would be to have my inner knowing shattered into unrecognizable pieces. But this path also landed me here, in this space, getting to air out my soul and tell you my good news. That my years of seeking have brought me back to myself, that I feel a deepening connection to a higher power, and my faith is growing stronger, nurtured by a spirituality that liberally and proudly borrows from various religions and traditions, including my Ethiopian ancestors. I'm still defining and expanding my beliefs, but with absolute freedom. And by some miracle, this journey is no longer a lonesome journey, but it is one that's safeguarded by a diverse and inclusive spiritual community committed to supporting authenticity. However, during my preparation for this, my initial excitement about sharing my good news suddenly transformed into doubt and intensified into an overwhelming anxiety. I started to question whether my stories and insights measured up. Were they good enough? Was I good enough? I became terrified of facing invalidation and rejection from this spiritual home that I had finally found. Soon that fear became a reality in my mind, the rejection a guarantee. In fact, it felt like it had already happened. I had no evidence to support the conclusions I had reached other than my own imagined what-ifs. Thanks, trauma. I then started to question the assertions I was so confident about only moments prior. Could I afford to have my concept of God invalidated again? Was my connection to and understanding of my God strong enough to withstand the critiques my wild imagination was conjuring up? What does it say about me and my faith that I would even worry about external validation? I was reliving the painful experiences of rejection and shaming I experienced on my spiritual path. I had been assigned labels like the ungodly one, the non-believer, the sinner, and therefore not a person with moral character, a bad person, because I refused to blindly revere all things religious. I refused to accept their version of God. Though I am afraid, I did begin accepting their assessment of my goodness on some level. Because I was vulnerable, having immigrated to a new country at the age of 15 with a half-formed identity and a fragmented family. I didn't have the insights and rebuttals I do now to defend my self-concept from attack. I slowly lost connection to the presence of my authentic God amidst the chaos and confusion of my new life. Still, the memory of that deeply felt knowing demanded only authentic spirituality and refused to settle for anything less. So I spent the next 2 decades searching for it without much luck, while consciously and subconsciously working very hard to prove that I was indeed a good person. I overperformed, I overpleased, I overgave, but it did not work. The needle never moved. Instead, I lost myself in my joy to long stretches of severe depression as my life became an encounter with one trauma after another. All the while, I heard the assertions that any and all challenges I faced in life were caused by my refusal to embrace their God and religion. A volatile relationship with a parent, I needed to go to church and learn to be obedient. Problems in my marriage, I needed to pray more. Find myself a disempowered woman going through a difficult divorce and in need of support, I needed to undergo a spiritual cleansing ritual first. Mental health struggles, conclusive evidence that my lack of religion has brought an evil presence upon me. I caused it all by refusing to believe in their God, never mind the traumas that had kept piling on. Fortunately, these days, I'm getting much better at identifying triggered responses that are unwarranted by my present circumstances. I do keep still desperately wishing that I could build a solid, impenetrable fence to keep the pain and panic of my past traumas contained in the past. I especially resent and dread the times these painful memories stealthily and instantly hijack my present reality, altering it for the worse, until I can claw my way back to presence. My sole focus now is building a beautiful present reality with a commitment to keep loving, trusting, and connecting. Forces I know exert a strong pull towards presence.